Combining here, Ron Pena, you get to go first. What's an appropriate length of time to evaluate the property's financial performance? We've had them a year now. And should we sell, lease, or keep the golf courses?
Well, when looking at financials, one of the things when you got to break it down. You have seasonal businesses. Golf technically is a seasonal business. So you have to look at trends. And trends don't just come from looking at 1 quarter, 2 quarters. It's trending for at least, I would say, a couple of years. So to answer the question for time, I think the year that we've had was a little volatile. Let's give it another year, maybe another year after that. But we have to look at it, what's going on. There may be some events that may happen that we don't know about that may change, our course. But technically, you have to look at trends year over year over year. And I'm sorry,
how about, do you think, at this point, do you think we should sell, lease, or keep the golf courses?
Well, that goes back to how much time do we give it? And, there's options, we do have options, whether we can lease it, whether we can sell it, but the bigger picture becomes, what are the impact if we sell it? What's the impact if we lease it? It's going to take some like anything change you make in a business, especially something of this magnitude, it's going to take some due diligence to be able to figure out which solution is the best solution. And I'm not opposed to making changes, but what I do think is we have to have some facts behind it, and we have to give concession to the impacts that are going to happen to this community, because it doesn't just affect us here in this room, it affects a lot of other people, other citizens as well.
Thank you. Steve Solomon, two-pronged question. Length of time to evaluate, sell, lease, or keep the golf courses?
For a project of this size, I would give it 5 years. I would really start taking a close look in years 3, 4, and 5, and try to do adjustments during that time. As far as selling, leasing the golf course, I can tell you one thing I will never do. I will never agree to sell 325 acres of beautiful open space in the center of town for development, as some people have suggested. At minimum, I will keep it as open space for linear parks. But there's also another factor here that we haven't touched on, is the community center, once again, is not just golf. When we're trying to attract high-tech businesses, their biggest question is, how will I get my employees to relocate here? They're young professionals, they're used to large cities and lots of activities for themselves and their family. The community center, with its tennis, its fitness, and its golf, can be a major economic development tool. It can be used to show them that, yes, your spouse will have all these different activities. Once again, if you have any questions about what's going on, just stop by the fitness center in the morning for an hour or so and watch the diverse groups of people and age that are coming in to play tennis, to do fitness, and to play golf. But obviously, we have to keep a close watch on the expenses while we take into account the revenues. So once again, 3 to 5 years, one thing off the table, never sell it for any type of development.
Bill Rodman, two-pronged question. Length of time to evaluate, sell, lease, or keep the golf courses?
I think the length of time probably is 4 years. I have some experience in this. I've been on the board of the Gallery Golf Club up in Marana for the last 5, 6 years at least. And we brought Truman in about 2.5 years ago. We were losing $3 million a year at that club. They've now taken it down. This year will probably be somewhere in the vicinity of $500,000. I believe by next year they will get us down to break even. It just takes that time to figure out what the right combination of revenues and expense reductions, and the ways that you market the course, the way you bring in outside play, the way you bring in tournaments, the way that you integrate it into the town. And I think that's what we're working on now. I think this first year was pretty turbulent for quite some time. I think if we give Truman the ability to do what they know how to do, I've seen them do it. I've worked very closely with them for this last 2.5 years. They can, in fact, get us as close as it can be done. If it still doesn't happen, well then, by that time, I think that we may need to make a different decision. The hotel we're sitting in has the first right to lease a golf course if we want to sell them. So they may want, they may or may not do that as a first right, and we wouldn't be able to just sell that outright. I think we do need to keep it as open space. I think that is what it is. It is 300 and I thought it was 40 acres. In the center of town for $1 million, paid for 3 years, interest-free. I think that was a deal that couldn't be passed up, probably. I wasn't there, but it sounds like an awfully good deal. And I think it needs to be given that amount of time on the golf course side to be sure that we can make it work.
Bill Garner, the two-pronged question: what's the appropriate length of time to evaluate financial performance, and should we sell, lease, or keep the golf courses?
Well, I'll tackle the second one first, which is the sell or lease option. It's been talked a lot about we need to give it time, we need to do different things. One of the things with any type of look, whether it's long-term or short-term, is that selling or leasing golf courses really doesn't come into the equation until the first question, which is how much time we're going to give it. And the problem here is we keep hearing from other members of council, well, we're going to wait till we get X amount of dollars, we're going to give it a year, then we're going to look at it. What we need to do, as I've said before, is we need to have a hard sit-down with our Troon management company and other people that are running the facility to figure out exactly from them what they feel is the concern. Because here's the rub that a lot of people are not telling you, is the fact is that yes, we've got a dedicated fund coming in of a little over $2 million. Where is the capital going to come from to do the improvements that we need? You've got over $1 million in irrigation upgrades you have to do to those courses. That's $2 million, $1 million per course. So as I said, there's a lot of moving parts to making these types of decisions. So as we're starting to formulate, do we keep one course, 2 courses, 45 holes, whatever the case may be, the building is still non-ADA compliant and we're still working towards getting it compliant. So these are the things you have to look at. It's a bigger picture than just coming up with a number. But the fear that I'm seeing right now is that we're not getting the capital that we need to invest in both golf as well as the community center.
Mike Zinkin, the two-pronged question: length of time to evaluate, sell, lease, or keep the golf courses?
Your question just relative to golf, right, not the community center?
Yeah, I asked that specifically about golf.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Okay, first of all, yeah, we've only had golf course for 1 year, but golf for years throughout the nation has been going down. And there's no reason to believe that the El Conquisto course is going to be any different than the Mission Hills course in Mission Hills around Palm Springs. But they used to hold the Diners Shore Classic. It's closed. Nike is no longer going to make golf equipment. Adidas is spinning off TaylorMade and Adams, which are major club manufacturers. Major companies are giving up on golf. So you need to tell us what you want. If you want us to keep on spending $2 million a year on golf, we'll do it as long as you want us to do it. But a major company's not going to move to this town knowing that we're bleeding on a golf course, knowing that we have a half-cent sales tax that's providing income to a losing proposition. There's no employer going to come to a town like that. They're going to go to a town that spends their money wisely. You know, Lynn Erickson told me, who used to be the general manager here back when it was the Hill, still the Hill, but back before HSL bought the place. You know, I can make money in this hotel go away for golf. Well, I'm sure Mr. Lopez picked up on that because the first thing he did was sell golf. And we bought it with absolutely no business pro forma, with absolutely no looking at the contracts, no evaluations of the property, or anything like that. We cannot sell that property without your permission. State law says anything that's assessed at $500,000 or greater requires voter use. So I'm not selling it unless you want me to sell it.
Brendan Burns, you get the last crack at that one. Length of time to evaluate, sell, lease, or keep the golf courses?
Well, that depends. Are we going to be smart business people or are we going to be stupid? Because we're being incredibly stupid right now. And this is why. The success and failure of this is going to depend on membership, because that's the economic driver of our revenues. 457 is how many members we thought we'd have the first year. At the end of June, we had 251. Troon thinks we'll have 318 this fiscal year, or 251. So how do you get from 251 to 318? Status quo? No. You have to invest in the course to attract new members. So I've been saying all along, you're either all in on golf or you're not in on golf. But the status quo is not working. I proposed bonding to put new capital into golf, talk to the Men's Golf Association, to actually make it more attractive, so we get more golfers, more memberships, so we can actually salvage it. But that's not what this council wants to do. The status quo is not going to work. Either all in, develop a proper business plan, or we need to get out. We can't just keep going along because we're getting half our projected rounds. It's going to be a failure if we don't do something. Status quo hasn't worked for years. It's gone through bankruptcy and bankruptcy. We need to do something different, and we need to do it now. So if we do something smart, develop a business plan, let the business plan work. If we're going to do something stupid like we're doing, it's about time we start looking at alternatives in the next year or so. I would like to see a public-private partnership. When we purchased, I was actually a proponent and wanted to purchase the recreation center. My motion, when I worked with the town staff, when we purchased it in 2 weeks, was to immediately sell off golf and enter into a public-private partnership. I'd like us to see that right now, is try to do a public-private partnership with golf and recreation center and see if we can do some kind of lease or some kind of partnership that can benefit the town and the private company and see if we can actually make this work.